Don't underestimate this week's project. It is small and it was a quick turn, but what a beautiful bowl. Beautiful grain pattern, beautiful coloring. It's just further proof that small things can be very beautiful. So this week's going to be a quick project, but a follow-up to one I did a little while ago, a couple weeks ago. And that is a rough turn bowl, twice turned. So this was one of them. I did 4 or 5 at that time. And it was put into my kiln. I don't know if you can see it, but this is not round anymore. Once it goes in the kiln, it will grow in the direction that the tree grew. Actually, more correctly, it'll shrink in the opposite direction. So this is 2 millimeters bigger here than it is here. So, I mean, I could just put it on there. I could tighten it up enough. It's in expansion mode. I could tighten it up enough that would hold it, and I could round it up. It's not a big bowl. And this is why I'm doing it. It's not a large bowl, but what a beautiful bowl. Look at the spalting in it. It's going to be a beautiful bowl. But let's go ahead, get it mounted up, trued up, then mounted, and then finish turning. And I'll keep track of the time on this one. I don't use this tool very often. It's a cold jaws chuck. It allows you to hold a bowl. So it's the best tool to allow me to hold this while I true up the bottom. Now the top of this bowl is not quite flat, but that's okay. I'm able to hold it well enough that I can start rounding up and truing up what's going to be a mortise. Here's a good shot to just show you how out of round this bowl has gotten. And anytime it goes out of round, it's going to be worse up at the rim than it was down at the base. So the first step is to flatten the top out. So I'm just going to go across and remove material until I'm removing material equally all the way across the top of the bowl. You do have to go slow here, especially when you're using a bowl gouge. When you're up at the top here, you cannot ride the bevel, and that means the tool can catch or jump around. So you do have to take light passes. Now that the top's flat, I'll start working away at the outside. Again, starting slow up at the rim just because it's unsupported. I'm not riding the bevel. I'm just digging the tip in, and that can catch. Once I get a little bit cut, then it'll ride the bevel, and you can see the bevel here rubbing up against the bowl. And once that happens, then the gouge will be held more firmly in place. So I just stopped it there to take a look because I don't want to make it any smaller than I have to. So I'm just checking here to make sure that I've removed enough that I'm touching all the way around. And at this point, I was. I prefer, I've mentioned this on the channel before, to work from the bottom up. And if you watched last week's video, I appreciate that. I mentioned it there in that video, but I am standing directly in the line of fire. You can see my hand. My body is in the lower left-hand corner of the screen. If this bowl were to come off in this position, it would hit me. But it's a small bowl. It's round, very close to round at this point, and it's being held firmly in place. It's not much of a risk of this bowl coming loose. There, in about 5 or 10 minutes, probably 10, I've got the outside trued up, and basically the outside is ready to be sanded. And now I'll switch to the inside. I didn't show it here, but I ended up getting a little bit of a catch when I went to switch to the inside, and it was just enough. The bowl didn't come off or loose, but it did move a little bit, so it was no longer balanced and it was a bit out of round. So all I did was loosen up, reattach the bowl in my chuck, reseat it, and then tighten it back up again. And now you can see it's turning true again, so I can go back to working on the inside. So here I'm just sanding. I started at 80 grit and I worked my way up to 400. So just a word, I've sanded it up, and I didn't show it. I don't usually. People don't like watch sanding. I don't like sanding. But I sanded it from 80 grit right up to 600. I haven't put my abrasive polish on it yet, but I did burnish it. Just a word on that. I will take some coarse shavings, run the lathe at high speed, and rub these on it. And that just really seals the wood up. Now I run it at a high speed and I hold it there till it gets warm. I've already done it. I've done inside and out, and that makes that a glass-like finish. I find it just seals everything up. This elm tends to have a bit of porous grain, similar to an oak in places, but it does a great job at sealing it up. So I'm going to apply my abrasive polish to this now, and given that it's so smooth, I will probably apply a wipe-on poly. So when I'm applying a wipe-on poly, I do not want to apply my wax finish because I don't want to seal it off, because otherwise the wipe-on poly won't be able to absorb in at all. So I'll just apply this polish. But look at how much, look how that's made it darker, and it helps just bring out the contrast between the spalted and the normal wood. Not a big bowl, but definitely beautiful, beautiful grain. Now you can see there I switched cloths. I put it on in a dirty spot and then put a clean spot on the rag and wiped it till it came clean. Then I know that I've removed my abrasive paste. I don't want to leave any of that behind because it is rough. I could just leave it like that. I could put a wax on it and leave it, but I think I'm going to put a wipe-on poly on it. So I'm going to wipe it down with the mineral spirits. That'll do two things. It'll remove any residual sawdust, which I doubt there's any on now, given that I've already done my abrasive paste and I've already done the burnishing. But I'll wipe it down anyways with mineral spirits. That'll clean it up. It'll also remove any residual wax if there is any. Not wax, or mineral spirits from the abrasive paste. Even that's darkened it up a bit, giving you a better idea of what it's going to look like when it's done. Now, I do not expect that it's going to absorb much of the wipe-on poly. The wipe-on poly will end up sitting more on top, just because this wood is probably already pretty sealed, given the burnishing and everything else. But let's go ahead and see what it looks like. First coat of wipe-on poly is fairly liberal. Again, just in case it does absorb any in. I want to make sure I get it down around the base. Just keep an eye on it, make sure I've gone all the way around, which I have. Not much chance of it running. Again, I put on a thin coat, but I'll run the lathe a little bit just to make sure. We'll let that sit for a couple hours, then rub it down with a Scotch-Brite pad, and then apply another coat, and I'll probably end up applying 4 or 5. Maybe more. You know when you've had enough, it'll go from a satiny finish to a real shine. That's when you know that you put enough on. That's a beautiful piece of wood right there. I love spalted wood. It's not for everybody. My wife does not like it, but it's one of my favorites.